So on today's extra help lesson for our grades project, we're going to add um, the constructor that receives an array, and we're going to create that array in the client program, which is our grades tester, and pass it in to the grades object. And then I realized I forgot to talk about how the print commas method from yesterday's lesson works, and I'll go over that, and we'll actually change that to print. We'll add one for print tabs as well today, and then I want to write one of the two methods, max and min, and I'll leave the other one uh, for you. So that will be today's lesson. Let's get started. So the um, the first thing we wanted to do is in our grades, in our grades, I don't want it that big. That's crazy. First thing I want to do is take a look at our constructors that we have. This was the null constructor. This is the one that receives a single int. This is the one that receives three integers. How many we are going to have, how many scores we'll have, a lower bound and an upper bound. And then today's is really simple. Um, we're just going to have the heading will look similar. And this one is going to receive an array of int. So it will receive an array of integers, and I'm going to call it an array. And the only thing we're going to do in our constructor here is to say that scores equals an array. So we're going to create the array outside the class grades. So in grades itself, we created an array like we did here using a for loop. And I'm going to copy that code, and we're going to do this outside in the, so let me compile this, and we're good. And let's go back to the tester class, and we're now going to test the fourth constructor. So let me first just paste this code that I had that was going to create an array. So in here, I'm going to create an array, which I'm going to call just A, because it's a dummy array. I'm going to create it. I don't know. We can choose whatever size we want. I'll choose 50 for this one. We're just testing it. We'll choose 50. Then we're going to go from 0 to a dot length, and we will put in our array that we called A a score that we will again get from our random score or get random score method that we wrote. And it have no idea what lower bound and upper bound is right here. So let's just send it some values. In this example, I'm going to go from 0. Let's say it's a quiz grade that ranges from 0 to 30. How about 32? So this will create the array. And we're only doing this here in the client program, our tester, to see if we can create a see if we can test our constructor where we send in an array that already exists. So I'm going to make another grades object. I'll call it period 4, and that's going to equal a new grades object that sends an array to it. This is the constructor we're presently testing. So after we do that, we need to print it to see if it worked. So we'll just print with commas again. And I'll copy that and paste that right here. And this time I want to print period 4's grades. So let's see what happens. So we should see all 4. We should see the grades we created from the null constructor, the constructor that receives a single int, the constructor that receives how many and a range, and this one where we constructed the array ahead of time. We did all that right here, and then we're using that array. We're passing it to the grades object, and it should create that grades object, and if we try to then print using print commas, we should see the grades that range from 0 to 32, and there should be 50 of them. So let's compile that, see if we like that. It says it doesn't like that, and that's because we forgot, what do I mean we? I forgot to make this an array. So let's compile that and get random score. It seems not to, where did I use this before? So we can't use get random score here because if you remember, I made it private because I thought we weren't going to use it anywhere. So let's just fix that. So I'm going to close this. Let's go back in the grades, and let's not make this private. Instead, let's make this public. And not only public, but we'll also make it static so that we can call it from outside. So public will allow us to call it from outside. If we make it static, we don't need a grades object to call it. So let me compile that. It liked that. We're good with that. Let's go back in here, and we're going to call the grades class just like in the math class. You could say math.square root because the methods in the math class were all static. We're going to say grades.getRandomScore. We'll compile that. We're good. Let's try and run this, and we'll see what happens. So here we go. We have the arrays from each of the previous 3 constructors, and then here's our grades that ranged in value from 0 to 32. There's a 0. I don't see a 32, but we wouldn't necessarily have to get every value in just the 50 scores. So that was step 1. The other thing I wanted to talk about is, and before I forget, we go back into grades and we look at how we did print commas. I didn't talk about this yesterday. It's just a simple for loop that goes from 0 through the length of the array scores. We printed out and concatenated a comma with the score, with each score. And then when we were finished with the for loop, we printed an extra line. So if we want to do that same method, except separate by tabs, I'm going to change the name of this to tabs. And in here, instead of a comma here in between each grade, each score, I'm going to separate with a tab. So for a tab, it's \T inside of quotes. This is called an escape sequence. \T is an escape sequence. And that, I'm sure you've seen \N, which brings you to the next line. \T just adds a tab. So we'll compile that, and it likes that. And now we need to test that. So I'm going to close that. And if I go back to our tester, on my 4th set of grades in period 4, instead of printing them separated by commas, I'm going to print them separated by tabs. And I don't remember whether we wrote tabs or tab, but we'll find out. I guess we did write tabs. And let's take a look. And there they are separated by tabs. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and it went to the next line, unless we have more over here. Ah. So I was wondering why it looks so nice, like it went to the next line. So here it looks like we can only fit 10 in. So I'm going to go back, and in my print tabs, I'm going to modify this. If you remember when we did print commas, we had every 20. So here I'm going to, every 10, I'll return to the next line. And let's see if that looks, see if that fixes that for us. We'll compile this. And there we go. I don't think there are any more there. So printing by tabs looks nice. That's, I mean, these are fine. And I'll leave printing with a space for you. It's just, it should be obvious and clear. And that takes us to do max and min. I'm going to do that in a separate video because I think this one has already gone on for 11 minutes. Who wants to listen to me for more than that? I'll see you next time.